Hey everyone, and welcome back to season 4 of the SPIMA Council podcast. My name is Madeline Grossi, and I am one of your co hosts for this season, as well as the podcast administrator. Joining me on the hosting side today, we have Jackson Pretley, who is our producer and co host as well. And special guest today, we have Luke O'Brien, who's part of our social media team here at the SPIMA Council. And now I'm going to throw it over to Jackson to introduce our guest for today.
Perfect. Thank you, Maddie. So on today's episode, we have Marc Sorrie, who was the senior manager of athlete services at the 2022 Niagara Summer Games. And he was in that role since 2019. Marc graduates from the University of Ottawa with an honors and bachelor in specialization in leisure sports. He completed his master's at Vancouver Island University. Marc has also experienced the coordinator of host services for the Canada Games Council and coordinator of village services for the 2015 Canada Winter Games. As we speak, Marc is in Brazil with the Canadian women's soccer team. We welcome him as the 7th guest on the SPIMA Council podcast. So Marc, just our first question, just to start off. So lots of your, sorry, I'm just trying to think right now. Lots of your roles thus far have been with athletes, host countries, cities, and like on-site operations. Can you just expand on your roles and some of your main responsibilities?
Absolutely. Well, and it's specifically been with the Canada Games. I've been fortunate enough to land some pretty incredible roles over what will be now my, let's call it, 10-year career. I'm somehow 34 and have a 10-year career going. It goes quick. Some of the key roles that got me here to where I am to being in Sao Paulo, Brazil right now. I started with the 2015 Canada Winter Games in Prince George, British Columbia. And I will say that after graduating at Vancouver Island University and then living in Vancouver, I had a lot of people scratching their head asking me why I want to move to Prince George, British Columbia. It's fairly north in BC, but you know what? I took a chance. I went to a smaller town that actually gave me a lot of opportunities over and above staying in a big city, and that one really. So I did food services, and I worked on mission services, which dealing with all the provincial territorial delegations, and that specific role really helped me to solidify the idea that in any of these athlete services, anything that we're doing, it is literally about the athletes and thinking through everything, all your plans, all the services, all the things you're providing from the lens of the people that are going to receive those services is easily, hands down, the most important way to do it. And thinking about all my plans, thinking about how is it going to be received, and what are the hurdles to get to success. And so the other big one is we're just really trying to eliminate barriers that would create moments for teams and individuals to win gold medals. And so the more barriers we can remove from that through some of these roles that I've done, that's our job.
No, for sure. And then do you just have like an example of some of these barriers that maybe happened at the most recent summer games, like the 2022 Niagara Summer Games, just because that's local?
No, absolutely. Things like Luke knows a lot of them too. So Luke was fortunate enough to work with us in Niagara 2022 Host Society, and he did a phenomenal job to help us, especially in the area of food. Food is one of these areas that is so critical and fundamental to everybody. And sometimes things like allergens and those types of ideas can be very significant barriers for folks. And one funny, it's not funny, but it's a little bit of a strange thing that happened. Turns out somebody at our games had a significant allergy to cinnamon, and even airborne cinnamon. And now trying to work with, we didn't actually know that until they showed up and had a significant allergic reaction. And then working with the catering crew, the university, and all the people that are part of, and then the venues that person goes to, and to ensure that they understand, this is what we need to do now. From now on, we have to eliminate cinnamon and everything, and to work through that. And then to also, it's not only now now you have to work backwards a little bit because you've lost a little bit of trust from that athlete in some ways. You know, that athlete assumed that they were good coming into it, and then, you know, turns out they weren't. And so now you're backtracking, working with their team, working with their folks to make sure that they can be trusting and, you know, give up the concern about the allergy and only focus on competition again. And that takes a little bit of work. It takes some massaging. It takes some, you know, there's a lot of people involved to make sure that that works properly again. But, you know, all of a sudden that person's focus was specifically on their allergy and, oh my God, can I eat again? Instead of thinking about their competition, being with their teammates, doing the things that they want to do, having fun. And so just being able to eliminate that and regaining some of that trust was definitely a big part of that.
No, for sure.
Yeah, there's been a lot of barriers that we experienced throughout the summer. Obviously, COVID was one of those barriers too. But aside from the COVID and all the effects that it had on the games, what would be the biggest challenge that you faced when planning for the games?
For COVID, yeah, you know what? It's funny. So, personally, like even just you got to think about it personally. I knew that I was coming to the Niagara 22 games on what would have been a 2-year contract. That turned into ultimately a 3.5-year contract. With a lot more logistics in my life. Ottawa is home for me. My partner's in Ottawa. We have a home in Ottawa. And, you know, that extra year and a half definitely put a lot of wrenches into my life. And then let alone the same idea, putting that aside, putting that away to make sure that you can focus on what it is. So that's a personal one for me. You know what? Niagara's an interesting place. It's got everything you need, but generally only one or two of the people that do it. And so trying to find labor, trying to find folks to complete contracts and do all these things. It's one thing to say, I'll pay you to do it. It's another thing to say to find somebody to do it. And that was one of our biggest challenges and hurdles to overcome. And we had to bring in a lot of people from further than we expected. Things like bus companies, things like coach bus companies. Quick shout out to STC Bus Lines. They are phenomenal, based out of Niagara region. But coach buses, they came, you know, from London, Ontario. They came from all these other places that we definitely did not anticipate having to bring some in from. And that was another big hurdle is, you know, just trying to bring all the pieces together to service 5,000 participants. And, you know, Niagara was phenomenal to do this. It was a great town. It had a small enough field, but generally had to pull in a little extra resources, which made it a bit of a struggle for sure.
Yeah, I know we're all, as students, we're all pretty happy that the Niagara Summer Games happened here because, you know, it gave a lot of opportunities for students in the summer. If you were here and you had time to go work or volunteer, that's in your resume. I think we even turned it into like a course at one point. Like you could take it and get credit from working at the games. And now we can benefit from it because it's the first time the hockey teams are going to play on campus. So hopefully this season there'll be lots of students there and tickets are free in the regular season. So we're really excited it's here and glad that the summer games turned out to be a success because it was long anticipated for sure. But we know that you're in Brazil right now with the Canada women's soccer team. So can you tell us a little bit about your role right now and what you're doing down there?
Absolutely. You know what? I'm going to go right back to just students and Brock students helping out the Niagara Games. First of all, thank you. It was literally not possible at all to have what we did happen without tons of support from, you know, primarily Brock, SPEMA's sport management students, alumni of sport management program, all those folks that came through. It was phenomenal that way. And just know that I think most people learned that the Canada Games is A, crazy, B, a massive task. And lots of people around in the sport industry understand that. So leveraging that opportunity to say that I had this role, I managed this team, I did all these things is super important to leveraging future careers and things like that. And don't underestimate the experience and you know, associating yourself with the Canada Games. So I just wanted to throw that one out there. With Canada Soccer, you know, this is also where networks kind of come in to play and helping out. When you're, you know, working events, doing these things, you're on contracts, you know, And it just so happened Canada Soccer was looking for somebody that had a little bit of time to help with some of the logistics. They travel the worldwide travel and logistics of some of these national programs and some of the big national programs is extensive, and they need lots and lots of bodies to help do this. And so it started with a trip to Spain, literally the day I was done working with the Niagara Games to help coordinate some of the logistics and just be the on-ground support to help set up practices, nutrition, games rooms, entertainment, food, all the things that the team needs to, again, same kind of concept to it, eliminate barriers to find on-field success. And that is really my job, is for both players and coaching staff to eliminate some of those barriers, similar to the things that are going to cause them challenges and grief, to make sure that they can just slowly focus on their on-field performance. And so a lot of that's lifting bags. A lot of that is, putting my ego aside and saying that, oh, I'm a big, important person. No, I'm not. We're part of a team, and our whole goal is to make sure that, the women's national team finds success. So that started with a trip in Spain. Turns out they may have liked me. Here I am in Sao Paulo now. So we have 2 games upcoming against the Brazilian national soccer team. And this is all in lead up to next summer, which will be the Women's World Cup, which everybody's very much looking forward to. We had the draw. The women had a great, favorable draw. But again, lots of logistics, multiple cities, multiple places, all these things. And it takes quite an extensive team to help put this on.
No, for sure. And then just because you said you're in Sao Paulo, where is the Women's World Cup next summer?
It's both New Zealand and Australia that are sharing the responsibility. So the women's tournament just expanded. It's now a 32-team tournament. Women's soccer is the hottest ticket in the world right now. It is definitely the place you want to be. So again, I'm fortunate enough to be helping out in part of this. And so the Canadian women will have games in Melbourne. Their main games will be in Melbourne and Perth. So think about you got to think Australian. That's a big flight between the two of them, and so a lot of the logistics that'll happen. And then I believe the finals, it comes down to places like Sydney and Auckland. So there's a lot of logistics and a lot of fun, and a lot of prep to get to that point for sure.
No, for sure. Sounds like it'd be a cool experience. So just going to transition into some real life talk away from the industry. So we were just on the topic of the World Cup. The Men's World Cup starts in, I think, about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So do you have any bold predictions, any underdogs that you think could do well in the World Cup?
I mean, Canada, we had some injuries in the last couple of days here that between goalkeepers and Alphonso Davies, and they'll get there. They'll do well. I truly believe Canada will upset Belgium and win that pool. I feel like they have the confidence in the team to do it. I think it's going to be anyone's game. I think the heat is going to play a big part in Qatar, and I think it's the teams that will be able to overcome some of these things and do that. I have to say Canada. Canada's just going to win it all. There's no way they won't. And I'm going to stick to it. And someone's going to prove me right here sometime. There's no one proving me wrong.
No, for sure. Because I know me and my roommates were joking. If it was in the cold, 100%. Because I mean, we had that game against Mexico where it was freezing. Now it's time to see if they can play in the heat instead of in blistering conditions where it was freezing. Now it's time for the heat. So.
Absolutely. You know what? Everybody's good. And that's the thing. Everybody's so good. Everybody's so trained. Everybody's so talented. Canadians especially are getting opportunities worldwide that they've never been able to before. The Canadian soccer league's phenomenal. The American soccer league's phenomenal. The quality chances we have Messi possibly coming to Florida. The chances that we're having now, and not only for Canadians and in soccer, but so many other sports are growing. And I will say primarily for the men. And we definitely need to leverage some of these bigger opportunities for female athletes to make sure that they have these same quality opportunities that the men are getting to. But again, it's building. It's growing. We're seeing some big shifts in what are popular for sports too, I'd say. Soccer's always been a popular sport, a worldwide sport, but you know what? For Canada, we're always thinking hockey first. We're hockey, 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 hockey. Luke, you're always thinking hockey. You know, go Sens. But you know, we're now seeing, you know, Atletico Ottawa almost sold out the, you know, the championship game that happened 2 weeks ago in Ottawa. Some of these things that are, we're definitely seeing I would say a shift in what is very popular, very, you know, maybe it's deservingly so. Hockey is on a bit of a, as a bit, yeah, ding, we'll stop talking about that. But yeah, no, it's super interesting, and I love to see that. You know, I played soccer growing up, but soccer's fairly new to me, and making sure I know all the intricacies and you know, who's good, who's not good, and how this all works and comes together. But yeah, it's been quite interesting to see.
Well, and I think also like also not for Canada soccer, but even like the TFC as well. I mean, I was there at a lot of their games this year. Yeah, I was working there, and it was just so much fun. Like halfway through the year, we got some of the Italians, and I mean, it's just a really fun environment. Even if you're not like the biggest soccer fan, or like I don't know, soccer's not big in your family. Like tickets aren't as much money, and you can just go and it's outside and have some fun and cheer, and like the atmosphere is just amazing on like a Saturday night in the summer. So I've
Yeah,
always loved soccer, but
you get some of the hooligans out, and you know, and some of the things that happen, and there's so many rituals, so many chants, so many, it is quite fun. I do highly recommend you take in a professional soccer game or non-professional soccer game, wherever it is you live, that it's growing everywhere you are, and really take it in, because it's a phenomenal experience. And you know what, I'm gonna get a very much firsthand take of it down here in Brazil, but I think we're gonna have some pretty full stands and some crazy folks, and really looking forward to some of that really hardcore soccer experience.
Yeah, I know learning about new sports or relatively new sports is always something interesting. Like I know for me, even at the games, I got a chance to watch some like box lacrosse, some rugby, just sports I haven't seen in a while. And like they're super fun to watch. So I definitely recommend people always try to watch new sports whenever they get the chance. But going back to the
Absolutely.
like Canada Games, Mark, if you could have like, there's a lot of sports in there. Like they're gonna add women's baseball in 2025 too. But if you could add another sport to the Canada Games, whether it's summer or winter, what would it be?
Oh, has to be new, eh? You know, I will say, so based on my other job, I used to work for the Canada Games Council. So I spent 4.5 years with what would be the franchise holder for the Canada Games. If you know the Olympics, you know the IOC. Canada Games is something similar in what's called CGC. And so CGC goes through a pretty extensive sport selection process every games to make sure that, you know, the sports that are on the program have coaching certification levels all the way through. Most provinces and territories can compete in that sport. They actually have teams. You know, when we're trying to leverage to make sure that we're not just putting on something that only one or two sports or one or two provinces and territories can put on, you know, and there's actually reason and funding and growth opportunities in it, because you would see it also in the Olympics. I come up from a rugby background, so to see rugby sevens and to see some of the success and a lot of those folks coming through is phenomenal. So now 25 will have both men's and women's rugby. I think, you know, we're talking about some alternative sports. One of the ones that, you know, an underdog you're going to see eventually here is ultimate frisbee. Ultimate frisbee is a massive sport across the board, highly played at every university and college campus throughout. And, you know, age doesn't matter in ultimate. It's definitely something that everybody can play. What they need to do now is make sure that they have some certification, some progress, some, you know, actually legitimizing that sport a lot more. That is definitely one. It's fun. I definitely like contact a little bit more. So maybe you won't see me playing it as much, but it's definitely something to see coming through. Something like sport climbing as well. Some of these sports that, you know, are maybe less, you know, where concussions are a big deal. Some of these other sports, and so what are some of these other sports that, you know, can come through to make sure that teams can play and compete? You know, who knows? Who knows? You might see esports coming through as well. You can't underestimate the power that esports has, and then the competition and the level that they can come together. I think some of those three you're going to see on the program here very shortly in the Canada Games.
It's interesting for you to say how like you used to meet and figure out like what provinces had the right teams and everything, because we even see that at university sometimes is like there will be a team in almost every sport, but whether they're considered varsity and whether they get certain like services from the university, like that doesn't always happen, and especially like this year. I know there's been a lot of changes in Brock sports, and there's been teams who used to be varsity who aren't anymore, and they say, well, why don't I get this service, and why do the other one, like why does the other team? So it's just interesting to see how that all plays out and like the logistics behind it, because they don't just say, "Oh, we don't want you here anymore," and like cut you. Like there's a reason for it. So it's interesting to see the background, I think.
Yeah, you know what? And the unfortunate part about no one wants. I'm assuming Brock and every school would like to make every club and sport varsity. So it starts at the top again. It's decisions from U Sport. It's those types of what is varsity, what is not varsity. Example is men's rugby, not a varsity sport. Women's rugby is. Thank you, football, for taking up so many quota spots. I'm a football player as well. But you know what? Unfortunately, money talks in a lot of ways, and so some of the things that some of the sport management students and people that want to see some of these sports fight for these sports tell administrations, tell some of these groups that this is important to you. These people are important. This is what we'd like to see. This is what we want to support. And actually go out and support these sports. So if maybe a club or a team is not varsity this year, but had hundreds of people at every one of their games. This is how you get universities to understand and listen. Is get people in the seats, show support behind it, and really don't and fight for what you want to see. So maybe that is something that SPIMA and sport management can really help with that.
No, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And then like we're all fans on the inside when you go to a sports game or you're working with a sports team, and you normally have to put that aside while you're there and focus on your job. But we all kind of freak out at some points depending on who you see. So who would you say is like the most notable athlete you've seen, like working with the Canada Games or even with Canada Soccer? Like who are those few athletes that you go like, oh my God, but I have to put on a game face?
Well, I will, admittedly, so most of the players are coming in today. I'm looking forward to meeting the GOAT today. Christine Sinclair is coming through. She's hands down the Canadian icon of all Canadian icons. She overcoming all the obstacles she has, and to put her country on her back, literally with nothing, no support, and just still do it and still be the reason why women's soccer is the hottest ticket in North America right now. Has everything to do with her. I'm looking forward to reconnecting with her and making get an opportunity to work with her and again see firsthand how I'm going to call her magician works. She's timeless and does all these things. Growing up, I was a big hockey guy, so it's funny. You're going to learn all my passwords, but all my passwords for my computers and things like that have something to do with Steve Yzerman. Steve Yzerman, who's now the GM of the Detroit Red Wings. I was a big Detroit Red Wings fan growing up, still am. Ottawa number 2, Luke. I'll cheer for Ottawa as long as I'm not cheering for Detroit. If they're cheering for Detroit, then Ottawa sucks. Always did it right. Was always that humble leader that still just put his team on his back, put himself second to his team, but like still scored an unreal amount of goals. I have had an opportunity to quickly meet him as well, and again humble in all his life. He had such a great time in Tampa Bay because no one recognized him, no one knew who he was, so he could just walk around and be free. I knew who he was, so I got an opportunity to stop him on the street and say hi. That was pretty fun. But through Canada Games, actually, you know what? It was really interesting. I was at an event just working with Team Ontario. I'm on the Team Ontario mission for the 2023 games. And the men's hockey coach was there and telling a story about in 2019 in Red Deer, the ringette team and the men's hockey team were playing the same week, and they got along quite well. And the ringette team was always going to the Team Ontario games, and then the hockey team had a harder schedule to get to the ringette games. But the Team Ontario captain at the time was Shane Wright. If you know the NHL, you know who Shane Wright is. He begged and pleaded to get to a ringette game and made it work. Worked with the coaches, and Team Ontario showed up. And it's, of all players, it's Shane Wright, who is at the time was easily the most best hockey player you would have seen in the Canada Games, and still is showing that now today. It's funny how Canada Games, some of these things, you get to see some of these young stars growing up. And so Shane Wright, I do remember seeing him. There you go. There's some of the people. Name names.
I'm with you with first Christine Sinclair. I used to play soccer. I've always loved her. And the other day I actually saw that she has the new book, and I quickly texted my mom and said, "I'd like this for Christmas, please."
I can't lie. It is in. I'm not going to take it around. I've started it. I got an opportunity to start reading it on the plane, and you know what? It is a fantastic book. So definitely highly recommend it.
No, for sure. And then just one last question, because you said the 2023 games are coming up. They're in PEI in February. So what's like the one sport that you're gonna like try and make sure that you are able to like watch or like attend or just follow?
You know what? The biggest two really awesome sports. I already said one. Ringette is hands down. Most people don't necessarily realize that ringette should be a worldwide sport, and absolutely, it's so fast, so good, so technical. And at a Canada Games ringette, this is their Stanley Cup, and so coming together, the ringette competition at the Canada Games is fantastic. They travel really well, so the parents, friends, family, and spectators come to ringette games. They sell them out. They are fantastic at a Canada Games level. And then I also, one of the things that I'm doing is helping support the wheelchair basketball team for Team Ontario. And so wheelchair basketball is another one of these sports that not a lot of people get to experience on a day-to-day, but it's so fast, so a lot more bumping, a lot more grinding, and brings together both able and impaired bodies together and come together as a team. And it is so awesome to see the abilities from everybody, because everybody's able to do it. And so to bring everybody together and mixed abilities team, it's such a great sport to experience. And so those are two that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Perfect. And then Marc, as we just again, thank you for coming on the episode. So a tradition we always like to do, just as we're ending off the episode, we like to give the guest the last word and the floor. So we're going to give you the floor.
All right. Okay. Well, I know a lot of sport management students are, part of this. Don't be afraid to take risks. I moved to Fort St. John, British Columbia, to do an internship, which led me to getting my job at Prince George. Fort St. John is 10,000 people, if that, maybe 8,000 people, in the very top northeast corner of British Columbia. Don't be afraid to take those risks. Don't be afraid. These are the time you're young, you're able, don't worry about the other things. It's all going to work out. Some of these opportunities that are out there in smaller communities, smaller places afford you the ability to do a lot more than you ever thought you would be able to. So that internship opportunity, I did so much, met so many people, and which made a lot of people believe in me because they gave me a lot more responsibility, which immediately turned into something else. So this is the time to take these risks, to find these things, break out of your shell, and really show it. And that's why I'm here. It's just it was an internship 12 years ago that all of a sudden I'm here, right? And so it goes quick. I still feel like I'm 22. Maybe I am, but and so just I will say, take those risks, seek out those opportunities that maybe not everybody else is doing, and really make your name there for sure.
Awesome. Thanks, Marc.
Awesome. Well, very much pleasure to having me. Thank you very much. And if you need anything, anybody needs anything, reach out. We're all good. Nice to meet you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All the best.